Something big might be happening with our team, and it's not the kind of news anyone was hoping for. There's a lot of talk going around, and it could mean a major change is coming to our defense. Some teams are watching closely. Offers might be flying around, and decisions will have to be made fast. This could affect everything next season, from how we play to whether we stay competitive in the division. So, yeah, it's a serious situation, and we need to talk about it. But first, click the like button and, if possible, comment, SKOL Vikings! Just when you thought the off-season might bring a little peace to Vikings fans, the rumor mill explodes with a headline that's setting off alarms across Minnesota. Dallas just made a seismic move, firing their defensive coordinator after a historically disastrous season. And guess who's now squarely in their sights? Brian Flores. Yes, Vikings Nation. The same Brian Flores who took our defense from disarray to dominance in a single season. The man who turned a unit riddled with inconsistency into one of the most feared fronts in the league. And now, the Dallas Cowboys, backed by Jerry Jones's billions and a desperate need to fix their broken defense, are reportedly looking directly at him. But here's where it gets even more interesting, and just a little suspicious. Dianna Russini, a well-known NFL insider and frequent voice around Vikings circles, suddenly drops a tweet suggesting Flores is a top candidate for Dallas. And you have to ask yourself, why now? Why Flores? And why the sudden wave of media buzz connecting him to a team that's historically slow to hire hard-nosed disciplinarians? Is it genuine interest from the Cowboys? Or is this leverage? Because shortly after Russini's tweet, none other than Mike Florio starts banging the same drum. Dallas wants Flores. Coincidence? Or is Flores's camp playing chess, using the Cowboys' desperation as a bargaining chip to force Minnesota to open its wallet? Let's be real. It's not uncommon in the NFL for agents to float rumors to jack up the price. Flores is arguably the top defensive mind available right now. If you're his agent, why not drop a few whispers about serious interest from a franchise like Dallas, then circle back to Minnesota and say, match it or lose him? The numbers getting tossed around are serious. Rumors suggest Jerry Jones could offer $7 to $8 million a year. That's coordinator money at head coach prices. Could the Vikings match that? Should they? And more importantly, will they? Ben Lieber, former Vikings linebacker and a voice we trust in this community, puts Flores's chances of staying at 40%. Others say 50-50. The wild card, of course, is whether Flores lands a head coaching gig. If one of those 6 open head coach slots falls to him, the whole debate ends. But if it's just about DC money, that's a decision Minnesota's front office can control, if they choose to. And let's talk about those head coach vacancies, because it matters. Right now, 6 teams are looking: the Cardinals, Browns, Titans, Raiders, Giants, and Falcons. But scratch a few off the list right away. The Giants? Not happening. Flores is literally suing them. The Falcons and Cardinals? Both just fired defensive-minded coaches. They're looking for the opposite of Flores, which leaves 3 realistic threats: the Titans, Browns, and the team that should have every Vikings fan holding their breath, the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders terrify me in this situation. The Tom Brady connection is real. Flores and Brady are tight. Mike Florio's floated the idea that the Raiders might want to swing from a player-friendly coach like Antonio Pierce to a no-nonsense Belichick-style figurehead. Flores fits that mold perfectly. And Vegas sportsbooks aren't ignoring the buzz either. They have Flores as the odds-on favorite to land the job. Imagine this scenario. Flores gets an offer to lead the Raiders, a team with cap space, swagger, and Brady pulling strings in the background. Would he walk away from Minnesota? Could we blame him if the Wilfs lowball him? And that brings us to the ownership. This is where Vikings fans have every right to raise their voices. Because if the Wilfs let Flores walk over money, if they try to nickel and dime a guy who transformed our defense and gave this team an identity, we should all be furious. You can't tell the fan base you're chasing a Super Bowl, then stiff the most important non-head coach on your staff. The truth is, the Vikings don't have a franchise quarterback. History tells us that. So if you're not building around a Mahomes or a Burrow, you better have the best coaching staff in football. And with Kevin O'Connell on one side and Flores on the other, we have that. Lose him, and the path to a Lombardi gets a whole lot harder. Now, say Flores does leave. What then? Do we panic? Not necessarily. But let's be honest. No replacement will bring what Flores brought. That said, there are candidates worth watching, and we'll break those down in the next segment. But before we get to that, I want to hear from you. What do you think? If the Cowboys are truly making a push for Brian Flores, or if the Raiders swoop in, do you believe the Vikings will match the offer? Or are we about to lose the most important piece of our defensive puzzle? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. Let's pick up right where we left off, because if Brian Flores walks, the Vikings' next move becomes one of the most critical decisions of the entire offseason. And yes, there are names, some intriguing, some experienced, but none with the same fire, vision, and track record of Flores. Still, Vikings fans deserve to know what comes next. The top name on the list? Raheem Morris. Just let go by the Atlanta Falcons, Morris immediately jumps to the front of the pack. And here's why. There's already a deep connection between him and Kevin O'Connell. They worked together during the Rams' Super Bowl run. O'Connell as the offensive coordinator, Morris as the defensive boss. That kind of chemistry matters. In high-pressure games, in fourth-quarter playoff moments, you want a guy on the headset who speaks the same language. That's Raheem. Now, let's be fair. Morris's recent Falcons defense wasn't elite. It was middle of the pack. But he didn't have Aaron Donald or Jalen Ramsey this time. When he did, back in LA, he helped craft a unit that steamrolled its way to a title. And that's no coincidence. Give him talent, and he can cook. If Morris isn't available, or if he heads back to LA, depending on the Rams' staff shakeups, the next name being floated is Jim Schwartz. Yes, that Jim Schwartz. The same one who orchestrated the brutal, relentless Eagles defense that battered opponents during their Super Bowl run. The same Schwartz who transformed the Browns' defense into a top-3 unit in multiple categories last year. Aggressive, calculated, and willing to blitz from every angle. There's a lot of philosophical crossover between him and Flores. And that's crucial, because you don't want to rebuild your entire defensive identity just because your coordinator changes. Schwartz keeps that fire lit. He's bold, intense, and players respect him. Then, there's the wild card, Wink Martindale. Now, this one is interesting. Martindale's future is murky. He left the Giants under a cloud, and it's unclear if Michigan or another NFL team will scoop him up. But if the Vikings are looking for a high-blitz, physical, aggressive-style DC to match Flores' tone, Martindale fits the bill. He's known for creating chaos on defense, something Flores perfected in Minnesota. Still, there are risks. Martindale's schemes can be hit or miss, depending on the secondary's talent. And given the Vikings' ongoing rebuild in the back end, it might be a stretch. But in terms of raw intensity and identity, he's a candidate to watch. Now, let's talk dark horses. Because there's one name you might not expect, and that's Al Harris. Currently, the defensive backs coach for the Bears, Harris has never called plays. But don't sleep on his resume. He helped elevate Dallas's secondary during his time there, Those breakout seasons from Trevon Diggs and Darren Bland? Harris's fingerprints were all over that. And this year in Chicago, he's helped develop a young, fast, aggressive unit that has caught attention around the league. Would it be a risk to hand the keys to a first-time coordinator? Absolutely. But sometimes those risks pay off. Look at what the Rams did with Brandon Staley. Look at how DeMeco Ryans rose through the ranks. If O'Connell and the Wilfs believe in Harris's vision and presence, it wouldn't be shocking. Still, let's not sugarcoat it. Replacing Brian Flores, if it comes to that, will be a step backward. You can only hope to minimize the drop. Because he didn't just improve the defense, he redefined its identity. He made Minnesota a team no offense wanted to see on third down. He made linebackers like Ivan Pace Jr. and safeties like Josh Metellus household names. He was the architect, and the blueprint runs deep. And it's that blueprint that could end up being his biggest legacy, whether he stays or goes. Because if he does walk, the next DC must be someone who doesn't just understand that system, but believes in it. A coach who can keep that aggression, that deception, that chaos alive. There's still hope. Flores might just be playing the game, leaking names to the media, creating a market, and then turning back to the Vikings with a simple message. Match it, and I'm yours. If that happens, the Wilfs must respond. Not with hesitation, not with conditions, but with commitment. Because this team can't afford to lose him. Not with the NFC North getting more competitive, not with uncertainty at quarterback, and not with the defense finally looking like it belongs in January football. This is your move, ownership. Don't let it slip. And now it's your turn, Vikings fans. If you want Brian Flores to stay, let your voice be heard. Drop a comment below. Tell us what you think the Wilfs should do. Should they pay him $7 million a year? Should they go all in? Or should they roll the dice on a replacement? And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We're dropping Vikings updates all off-season. Coaching moves, draft previews, free agency rumors. So don't miss a second of it. Hit like, hit subscribe. Let's ride through this off-season together. SKOL Vikings.